evening. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission. Will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and/or the Town of Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw Division 6 and any other applicable laws on Wednesday, June 7th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. All matters listed may involve a discussion and possible vote. All hearings of the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw Division 6. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Before we get into the business, I would like to thank Mr. White, Mr. Bob White, for years and years of handling us, and communicating to us that we're not speaking loud enough when we're on the air. So Mr. White, Mr. Bob White, thank you very much for your time and commitment to Wareham and to the Conservation Commission. Mr. White has retired, and I will miss him greatly. Okay. First hearing, please, Mr. Kwame.
Oh, I thought we were doing a round table first.
Oh, why do I keep doing that? Please, introduce yourselves.
Oh, Kwame, Barty.
Autumn Wood.
Joshua Faraday.
Denise Schultz.
Sandy Slavin.
Carol Melanson.
Thank you. I keep forgetting that.
No, it's no worries. So this is a request for determination of applicability for Derek Sullivan, Wareham Conservation Department, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a parking lot, erect beaches and signs on Assessors Map 44, Lot 1006.B, 123 Sandwich Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you.
Yep.
Josh, you're up, since you're you're submitting this project.
Yeah, so this is the Bryant Farm property on Sandwich Road, right next to the golf course. The proposal is to put in a crushed stone or stone dust parking area directly adjacent to the power lines, the right-of-way. The parking lot has the potential to be constructed outside of the 100-foot buffer, with a little bit of it maybe being within the 100-foot buffer to a bordering vegetated wetland. I believe the project also consists of adding a few benches along the established trails and some signage. If there's anything I've missed.
And a connecting ADA compliant trail from the parking lot to the existing trails through a little grove of white pine.
That's correct, yeah. The crushed stone parking lot will extend shortly into the trail system. Again, I think that's, I'd say, barely within the 100-foot buffer, and no trees need to be removed to establish that because it's already an established trail. Maybe some minor pruning of trees just to make it compliant. But.
This is, the conservation restriction is held by the Wareham Land Trust. So once we have approved it, it has to go to Wareham Land Trust for their approval of this work, even though it's outside the 100-foot. It's an alteration on the land they have the conservation restriction to. Plus, if you read the CR, the Conservation Commission must write a management plan for this land. And that's part of the CR, buried deep in it. I don't know how many times I read it and I missed it, but the Land Trust will not hear our request for alteration until that management plan is completed, but we can go ahead and approve the project if that is your desire.
Sorry, so my recommendation would be a -3 determination for the project, barring any discussion.
Okay. Kwame.
No questions, thank you.
Denise.
No questions, thank you.
Carol.
No questions.
Amber.
Autumn. No questions, thank you.
It's going to be one of those nights.
I knew it.
Remember,
I knew it was
she's
going to happen.
a season.
She's a season.
I knew it.
But she's a gem.
I do that constantly, and I do apologize, and thank you for reminding me every time I do that. just for the record, I am the chair of the Open Space Committee, and we are the ones that have obtained community preservation funds to do work on this particular property. Just let people know that I do have an interest in completing this RDA and the trail development.
Should I also make that announcement?
Yeah,
I'm also a member of the Open Space Committee, so for clarification, this is something that we have been working on for several years.
thank you. Anybody in the audience would like to comment on this project? I see none.
If anyone is available on Zoom for commenting on this project, you can unmute yourself now. Seeing none.
Move to close the hearing?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
I'd like to approve the project with -3 determination, and also the Wareham Land Trust has to take action due to alterations. Is that what would you like, Sandy?
I think that's fine.
Oh, excellent.
That's the motion.
Second?
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. We have approved the RDA, and now we have to take the steps to move forward to the land trust. All right. Next one, please.
This is a request for determination of applicability for Stephen Sanford, GAF Engineering, 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to upgrade a failed cesspool within land subject to coastal storm flowage on the Assessors Map 27, Lot 1006B 21, Elizabeth Lane, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody here representing this project?
Madam Chairman, Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering on behalf of the applicant.
You're up.
Pretty basic and very positive. We're replacing an old septic tank cesspool system with a new Title V compliance system. We don't need any variances from the Board of Health. The only resource area is the land subject to coastal storm flowage, the V zone. We're well above and outside the buffer zone to the coastal bank. We are proposing a silt fence along the bottom of the slope where the system grading would blend into the existing grades. And I believe Brian marked out the system. Not sure if any of the commissioners had a chance to visit the site. And we would request a negative determination of applicability so that we don't have to file a notice of intent. You know, the Board of Health will be requiring their own as-built, so there's no chance of it not being constructed in accordance with the plans.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Josh?
I would agree. I think this is an improvement to what currently exists on the property. My recommendation to the board is a -3 determination.
Carol, any questions?
No questions.
Denise?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thank you.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
I have none, and I do thank you for staking it out.
Oh, for sure, Brian did,
I mean, it was-
right before we took off.
It was always nice and flat, so
Right. We try to remember that. Sometimes we forget.
thank you. Anybody online or in the audience who'd like to comment on this project?
Move to close the hearing?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. Next.
I make a motion that we accept this project with a -3 determination?
I have a motion.
Second?
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, please.
Okay, this is a request for notice of intent for Todd and Maria Delgado. Excuse me for the spelling and saying this, but Snyder Davignon in Lyon. P.O. Box 48081A, County Road, Unit G, Mattapoisett, Mass. 02739, to construct a boardwalk and pier on Ag 1 Mill Pond Assessors Map 129, Lot K3, 3 Michael Drive, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here representing this project?
Madam Chair, Dave Davignon, also known as Dave DeVignan, for the English-speaking people.
Thank you, Dave, you're up. Please explain.
So I'm representing Todd and Maria Julia Delgado. They're beside me. So we have a property, has an address of 3 Michael Drive. We're proposing access to Agawam Mill Pond. They are currently using the property and to get access into the pond. And currently, they use a footpath from Michael Drive. They park alongside Michael Drive. They use a footpath to get down into the water. They'd like to improve that access in a permanent manner by, we're proposing to build a low, I'll call it a low-lying catwalk, boardwalk through that path to get into the pond, where we'd have a permanent docking facility. The boardwalk through the wetlands is primarily because the pond does, in the wet season, it spills over the bank and cascades into the path. The area does get wet. So we're proposing to start the boardwalk approximately 25 feet off the street layout. At that point, the ground's pretty firm and high and dry, even though we're technically still in the wetland. Follow the path with a 3.5-foot wide boardwalk. 84 feet in length will get us to the pond's edge. At that point, we would transition to helical anchors for the supports of a 3.5-foot wide boardwalk to get to the end. And what we'd like to do, rather than put a conventional float, which would potentially sit on the bottom, would have to be anchored anyway in some fashion, they'd like to put a permanent docking facility where they could put a canoe and small watercraft on top of it as storage, lock it down, and then put a boat on the backside, which they can get into the water from boat ramp elsewhere. The pile supported, it'll be pile supported, elevated above grade. We're proposing to build that portion through the wetlands without any heavy machinery. We're proposing, if you look at the plan, cross-section, there's 2 different cross-sections. One is we're using something called an Oz post, which would be hammered into the substrate with a sledgehammer. You really don't need much more than that. If it's difficult, they might have to use a jackhammer. It's driven right into the ground. It basically is like a double spade. It looks like a cross. For that application, we're proposing to have the deck elevation 30 inches above grade, so it's safe. And again, that would be 3 foot 6 inches wide. The cross-section to the left that you see on that plan is helical anchors. Those would be drilled into the substrate, minimal impact, and they would support that portion which is within the waterway itself. Additionally, the applicants would like to put a privacy fence along the street line and then turning along parallel to the south property line for a distance of approximately 20 feet in that direction. The total length of fence is 145 feet. Currently, the property is being used as a dumping ground for people's yard waste and whatnot. They want to clean up the property of any junk that's that's been placed in the wetlands and any lawn debris and whatnot. Additionally, there are some down trees and there's a dead tree right at the end of the path that we would like to cut down. Again, we're not proposing any heavy machinery to enter into the wetlands. Everything would be mechanically cabled and pulled out of there or cut into pieces so it could be manually pulled out. We believe we could do all of the work without any heavy machinery entering the wetland. And the the portion within the pond be done using a small barge that would come in to put in the helical anchors and then build the frame and put down the decking. We do have a DEP file number. There was a delay in the issuance of that number. You should have received it today.
We did receive the DEP file number, yes.
There was a snag with the check got lost in the mail. It's somewhere at DEP Boston, but we don't know who has it, but, so we had to refile electronically so we can get that accomplished. This project, the portion within the pond, that about 40 feet out from the edge of the pond is going to require a Chapter 91 waterways license, which we filed for, because this is considered a great pond. So that will be required before we do that portion within the waterway itself. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So a few recommendations for the project. Historically, the commission has allowed a certain width of path through wetlands to obtain access to docks. What they are proposing is less than what you normally approve. Getting the path above the actual grade, I think, will benefit this wetland instead of having it at grade. So I see no issue with the proposal of the, I'll call it a boardwalk, I suppose, through the wetland. As far as the freshwater or inland dock meets all the requirements of the Town of Wareham bylaw for freshwater structures, so I see no issue with that. The fence, historically, I believe the commission has requested that the bottom of the fence be a certain distance above the ground to allow for wildlife passage. It also appears that the fence stops well before the actual pond, so I guess there would be some wildlife ability to move between the property and the pond as well. With that being said, I believe the fence would prevent people from dumping their yard waste into the wetland, which is currently happening pretty heavily. And I believe the property line is, I would say, the same as the wetland line. There's a pretty steep gradient between the property before this property, and that would be the wetland line. So I would say that the dumping of yard waste in that section would have to cease to happen as well. Other than that, I would recommend the approval, potentially with the condition of putting some of the Wareham wetland resource signs on the fence that's being constructed along the road.
Dave, any comments on what Josh has?
Just a few. Whatever the commission recommends for height above grade, we fully expect that.
Okay,
And putting up signs is a good idea.
all right. Kwame, questions?
When I went to visit, so is there any abutters that need to be notified for this, or is this really?
So I imagine the people across the street would have had to been notified and maybe diagonally across.
There were 4 abutters within 100 feet. The one to the east, across the street, the one to the south, and then diagonally across the street at the intersection.
Yeah, because we went trekking through there today, and it's pretty thick. You know, I don't know how you did, Josh, but I
You
couldn't
guys
get
paid
there.
me to do it, that's how I did it.
Oh, okay. That's the secret. So, yeah. So this, I don't know how that kayak was in there. That's wow.
It
Yeah.
was early in the season. It's a completely different spot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it looks a lot different. We were at the site probably back in February,
Oh.
before the leaves took, and you can see a lot more,
Okay.
such as the junk and everything else. But
Yeah, because a lot of stuff is hiding now. I'm sure. So, really, no other questions. Thank you.
Denise?
I guess I have a couple questions. One, we allow a permanent dock so that no storage would be involved with this at all, or?
So your proposal is to leave it in the dock year-round?
Yes.
And that's allowed?
Yeah.
Is it with the bylaws? I don't,
No, no, yeah.
I'm not as familiar with the pond bylaws.
No, it is allowed under the bylaw, yes.
Okay. Second, is that kayak that was laying back in there allowed to be laying back in there? Or is that going to be stored someplace else?
Once we build the dock and the waterway, the crafts such as the kayaks will be
Right.
stored on that platform.
All right, so they won't be laying
No more,
back in the wetlands?
nothing will be put in the wetland.
Okay, and then third, straight ahead down, there's a bunch of chairs and boats and stuff like that. Does that have anything to do with this project, or is that one of the
No.
neighbors' things?
No, that's a common area for the neighborhood. All the neighbors go down there. They set up their chairs, they have their canoes and stuff up by the waterway.
Okay, I think we have to notify the neighbors that that needs to be cleaned up.
It's just chairs sitting on there, it's nothing's,
There's boats down there, there's.
That would be at the
Up
end
at
of the end of the road?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
it's on Michael Drive.
that's a part of Michael Drive, not our.
boats out back in there, and there's also a trailer parked back in there. Is that all allowed to be back in there?
I didn't see any of that.
I
That's-
believe,
I-
did you take a picture of it today?
I did see it. I know exactly what you're talking about. There was 2 or 3 canoes. One of them looked like it had the back for a motor. There were some chairs. I mean, I can try to notify
Notify them,
the people there, but I don't know.
Just looks like it's a
where they came
storage
from.
area for everything.
Yeah.
He must have gone walking into that woods.
No, straight
No,
ahead.
if you go right
Straight
down
down.
Michael Drive, at the very
Right
end of
down
Michael
there.
Drive.
There was no boats. I just saw about half dozen chairs. That's all I
There
saw.
there were a couple, I'd say 2 canoes, maybe a kayak.
I didn't
Canoes
go,
and kayaks,
I
there's
didn't,
this boat in the, or boat, what do you call
Okay.
that, back in there. So I don't think any of that.
missed it. Must have been raining.
Either that or they just got dropped off, who knows
No,
today.
they've been there a while.
So maybe we can notify the neighbors that that can't be done back in there.
Yeah, I think Gary has a way to notify people when their property shouldn't be where it is, so maybe we'll just attach something to the boats. That might be more effective than sending out a letter to everyone in the neighborhood.
Okay. That was all I had questions on. And I like the idea of the wetland signage. I think that's necessary.
Carol,
No questions.
Autumn,
I want to clarify that you don't own a house on the property or adjacent to the property?
That's
Yes,
correct.
that's
Yes.
correct.
Okay. And you are aware that there is a public ramp just around the corner of where this property is?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
boy, I missed a lot.
Whitlock Landing.
Oh, okay. The fence, I know it's gonna go straight across on top of where that deep depression is, right? Across that way, on one edge of the property, right? It's gonna go down Michael Drive to how far down Michael Drive?
It looks like about 30 feet past the pavement. Where the pavement ends, we show the end of the pavement there.
So
We're
there'll
we're
be,
stopping it short of the wetland flag number 1. We're
All
not
right.
putting it in the wetland.
so there'll be a gate allowing them to get access to the walkway that will get them to the boardwalk.
That's correct.
It will be a dock system, and you'll go for Chapter 91. You mentioned, where will the barge be launched from in order to do the work in the water? Is there a public launch point along this way for a barge to be
There-
entered?
There is on Route 6.
Yeah, the new boat
Yeah,
ramp.
no. But will it go underneath Route 25 to get to where you need to go,
Yeah, underneath
the highway?
the highway, it's pretty thick. I think it's like maybe 10 to 12 feet across.
I'm talking about height.
It's pretty high.
This would be a small barge.
Okay, so there'll be no,
Nothing,
once we,
the barge won't be bringing equipment on it, like you normally would see, a crane or something like
it'll
that.
just be a working
Just for them to work in the,
platform?
right,
Oh,
on the
okay.
water. And then they'll set up, they can mechanically, with handheld, hand packs,
Oh.
put the helicals in from standing right on the barge.
Okay.
And the barge will help them bring in helical anchors, small
So the
things.
barge is really a float?
It's a raft, I would
Okay,
call
so
it,
it's,
yes.
because I'm saying to myself,
A barge may be an overstatement.
but it's one of those things that I was concerned about access into it because I didn't know of a launching site. You've explained to me it's that public launch site on Route 6. Yeah. What's the depth of water where the dock is going? Is it going to be a floating dock or a fixed dock?
It's going to be a fixed dock. We have,
How much water underneath it?
the top of the bank is about 14.9, and we're going to be below 11, so 3 to 4 feet of water.
Okay, so we have no issue of it ever resting on? It's a fixed-
No,
it's a
it'll be
fixed dock.
fixed, but we're setting it just above the water level. We don't want to be too high, there's a balance there. So if the water level drops, you'll see more of it sticking out of the water.
Is there anybody online or in the audience who would like to speak to this project?
I would.
Oh, there-
My name is Tracy Williams.
All right.
I live at, excuse me, I live at 138 Glen Charlie Road and Michael Drive. And I have some serious concerns about this, this dock going in there. First of all, just for clarification, no one in this neighborhood has dumped in that land since Mr. Delgado has purchased the property. He had told us in a very friendly, nice way, he did not want us dumping down there anymore, and that he was going to be putting surveillance cameras up. So that hasn't happened since he purchased the property. I do have a concern as far as the dock, because according to the biomap that was revised on in November of 2022, that area is considered a critical national landscape. And there are deer that come across that waterway, and to go ahead and, I mean, it's nice to have the gap in the fence for wildlife and stuff. That is still not going to help poor deer that is losing their homes to cut down trees and stuff that get trapped in that fenced area. Mr. Delgado and his family, from what I can see, does not visit the property as, a whole lot. So what happens if an animal, a deer, gets stuck in that fence line? I'm glad that they're thinking about putting up a fence, because there are there's 3 small children in this neighborhood, and there is a elderly gentleman with dementia to whom uses the table and chairs that are provided by me down by that waterway. So if you want me to take those table and chairs out, I certainly will do that at the first chance that I get, which will, if it doesn't rain, I will take out this weekend. The second, another thing that concerns me is the maintenance to the pier. Who is going to maintain that after time? And I guess that's it. I guess that's it so far.
Yeah, the maintenance of it will be part of their 91 chapter. The fence is not all the way around the property, but only on 2 sides, is that correct?
It's really one side, we're turning the corner, and we're at 20% on the second side, but there's plenty of
It's a
room on
90,
either
it's
side.
a a 90-degree angle of the fence. It's
Correct.
not all the way around the property.
No.
And I see no reason to remove the tables and chairs since they physically are not into the land. They're just sort of sitting on it. But I think we're concerned about the other equipment that's down there stored on.
No, I just mentioned that, Madam Chair, only because of the fact that, you know, it was mentioned that there was chairs and boats down there.
We were concerned
So I
about
just-
the boats,
I
not the
ju-
chairs. But thank
okay.
you very much for your comments. Is there anything, Tracy, is there anything we haven't covered for you? But thank you for your comments.
No, I'm just, you know, again, I would like the board to please go ahead and refer to the biomap that was revised in November of 2022, referring to that area as a critical national landscape.
Whose bio map is that?
The state of Massachusetts.
Josh, are you familiar with that bio map?
Not the one that she's speaking of. I'd be happy to look into it, but,
I have the website if you like that, sir.
yeah, if you want to email it to me, that's fine.
Are we talking about
Yes, I
natural
will.
heritage?
I will do that.
I
So-
don't, is it, Tracy, is it natural heritage or something?
It doesn't specify that. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and it just says biomap, the future of conservation in Massachusetts. And that is kind of the gist of it. And if you, I know Josh will probably get a better
Okay,
look at this, but, because I have a poopy phone, so I don't have, but if you look at it, this right here is Michael Drive. This right here is Michael Drive.
we're not seeing,
That
we're
what-
not seeing the image. Oh, there you are. Yep.
Okay, so this Glen Charlie Road, that white line,
Yep.
I believe that's Michael Drive. And this greenage there is the critical natural landscape. But you'll get a better look at it. Unfortunately, you know, like I said, my phone. But because on my phone it shows, you know, the road, which is Diane Drive going to the right, but it actually goes in the other direction. So, but if you look at it, that greenage there, not the dark green above, but that greenage there is right where Mr. Delgado is proposing to do the dock. But Mr. Farady will see that when he, you know, looks it up. I'll email that to him.
If I may, Madam Chair. So there is a requirement that states that if the project is within the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Protection mapping, that is forwarded to them when filing a notice of intent. The applicant just showed me the map. It doesn't appear that it's within the NHESP mapping, so it was not required to be
Okay.
applied to for natural heritage. But
So the files we use to identify wetlands and national heritage and endangered species, this is outside of that scope.
it does not fall within the mapping, correct?
Mapping,
That's correct, Madam Chair. The map is a part of the notice of intent,
yes.
and you can see where the locus is pointed. The abutter is correct in that a good portion of the easterly side of the pond is mapped, but we're a significant distance to the west of that map line. If we
Okay.
fell within it, we would be obligated and required to file a notice of intent with natural heritage, but
All right.
we're not close.
Tracy,
I don't see that. I see that Mr. Delgado's property, it lies right on that,
Well, I think.
on
we're
that
looking at-
water.
I think we're looking at two
So
different sources.
I'm not sure on what map you got, you know, the board is referring to, but, you know, I mean,
It appears
I
we're
know.
looking at
So,
two
it-
different
you know, to me-
documents. So we will use the standard one that we've always used for national heritage and endangered species, and, yep.
I would still like to look at the map that you were referring to, Tracy, so if you could forward that to me, you and I could have a conversation about it as well.
oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment on this project?
I'd like to comment.
Identify
My name is
yourself, please.
Michelle Saborik, and I live on 4 Diane Drive, which is a very short walk to the property we're discussing. My concern is that I read the entire proposal, and part of the proposal stated that there could be dredging and filling, which I am not in favor of.
All right.
This is the wetland, and, and on that subject, I would say most of the year, that property has water. Almost the entire property is below pond level. So I honestly don't see how you could allow this to be filled or the pond dredged.
Okay, thank you. Dave, you want to respond to dredging and filling?
Yes, the notice that we're required to send to the abutters for a notice of intent is a boilerplate document that is provided by the DEP, and it has in there very, I'm going to say deceptive language, almost alarming language, because it states, when you look at that first paragraph, the applicant has filed a notice of intent application with the Wareham Conservation Commission seeking permission to remove, fill, dredge, or alter an area to protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what we're proposing. We are not proposing to dredge the pond. We are not proposing to bring any fill whatsoever onto the property.
So that's just a generic statement.
Correct.
It says, or this, or that, or something else like that.
Correct. It's been in like that for decades. I wish they would change it, because you're not the first person that's asked that question at a
There's
public
no
hearing.
dredging and there's no filling being proposed with this project.
We're not proposing a wheelbarrow of fill, not even that. No fill, no dredging.
Michelle, does that help you?
Can you absolutely guarantee that there will be no filling and no dredging?
We're not,
Because otherwise, I'm very against this.
We'll put it in our order of conditions.
yes.
Yeah, so basically, if they do fill or dredge, they will be out of compliance with their order of conditions, and that will give the Conservation Commission the ability to take action upon the project. But again, they are not proposing to do either of those things.
Okay, and I'd also like to clear up one other item. As far as the chairs and the table and the boats, that is not on Mr. Delgado's property. So I don't understand why that's such a concern.
It is a concern because it's in wetlands, regardless of who owns the property. It's in wetlands, and that's in violation.
Okay, well, the canoe's been sitting in wetlands for a year.
Well, I
That's a
guess we never-
violation too.
I guess we never saw it until we looked at this project. We don't have access to every shoreline in town. Now that
I
we've seen
understand
it,
that, ma'am.
okay,
I understand that, but rules are for everyone.
yes.
Everyone has to follow the same rules.
And as we find violations, we notify them and get the violations cleaned up. But we have to know
Thank
about it
you.
first. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Michelle. Anybody else?
You're welcome.
commenting?
I'd just like to make a comment as far as me maintaining the property. Since I bought it probably 2-3 years ago, when I talked to Dave Bouchette, he informed me that I couldn't do anything to the property. I couldn't cut anything down. He let me cut one tree that was dead and falling down because it was hazardous. But beyond that, there's a lot of shrubs and underbrush that was there. And there was a lot of yard waste. I never indicated that people are currently dumping yard waste there, but the property is full of yard waste that has been dumped before I even bought the property. I was instructed that I couldn't have a professional cleaner in there with any equipment, that would have to be taken out. Now, I I got some contractors give me some estimates, but I didn't want to do any work to the property until I went through this process, so they could tell me what I can do or what I can't do to the property.
But in saying that,
Excuse
Mr.
me? In a minute. So I wanted to thank you. Now, is there somebody who want to comment back? Identify yourself, please. Yes.
My name is Trace, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tracy, your turn.
Mia Dolores.
Tracy.
Tracy.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, so I said that earlier in my opening statement, Todd, because the developer said, and I quote, that the people or neighbors were dumping in that on your land, and that is not true. We have not dumped in that land since you purchased the property, because you instructed us to please stop doing so, and we did.
Okay,
we
Tracy.
were allowed to dump there before by the previous owners.
Thank you.
So that's why that was said.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers that. Anything else before we?
I do want to just comment on that again. The yard waste in the front is old yard waste. All the trash, I took out 5 construction bags full of trash, not waste, yard waste or anything. Bottles, broken bottles, tires and stuff out of there. But on the back side of it, there is fresh wood. It's not, it hasn't been sitting there a long time. It's fresh, yellow wood, so it's still new.
Okay.
People are still dumping on the property.
I think this goes beyond the scope of conservation bylaws and what we can comment on. But is there anybody else who'd like to comment on this project with anything new?
I believe Dolores wanted to speak.
Dolores, if you could please unmute yourself. I might have that ability. There we go.
Hello?
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay. I would like to say I'd like to not see a fence put up. I would rather signs be there. Okay? And I'm very much afraid of what's going to be happening all the way around as far as wildlife and habitat in the area. Being a wetland is bad enough. Putting up a fence, I totally disagree with, and I'm not too fond of this being put together. I think there's a lot of misinformation that's being said about the trash. There hasn't been, from what I can see, and I live right close by, from what I could see, there hasn't been new wood put in there. Prior owner did say, go ahead. He wanted fill, and he told everybody to go dump their
Dolores, that's outside
stuff
the
there.
scope, that's history. I just would like to comment on the particular project. I heard that you were not in favor of the fence.
No, I don't think that's right. Put up signs.
Well,
I put up an ugly fence in a beautiful forested area.
I
With-
thought, if I take a look at that fence and comes off of property, that's a pretty steep fall from someone's property down to the bottom of that little trench, ravine, whatever you want to call it. It's not a slide down the slope type thing. That's a tough fall, so I can
So
understand why.
fill up the area along
Excuse me.
there, from what I understand.
Dolores, I am.
That property there is town sidewalk.
There's no town sidewalk there. And they shouldn't be dumping in wetlands to begin with, whether you have permission from the property owner or not. You don't dump in the
There is no dumping in
wetlands.
wetlands at all. But anyway, I have a concern about the steepness of that property on that one corner, and I can see fresh leaves that have been dumped there when I showed up. But Thank you, Dolores. Is there anything else you want to comment on? You didn't want a
The
fence?
fresh leaves from the trees in the area and the wind that blows from
Nope.
the west down the street. I know, I get a lot of them
Nope.
on my land and they're not from my trees and they blow over there.
Those oak trees did not get there by the wind, but that's another comment, and that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the particular project for the boardwalk pier and fencing. Anything else, Dolores?
I have my concerns. I
Okay,
do,
thank you.
about the habitat, the wildlife, and most definitely the fence. Thank you.
Thank you. 6 to 8 inches off the ground, what do we normally do? I'm trying to think.
Oh, for
For the wildlife, for the bunnies and the raccoons and stuff like that?
you actually have in condition one while I've been here. I'm not sure what you've done in the past.
I thought it was 7, to be honest with you. I thought it was 7 inches
If
up
I
off
said
the
6
ground.
to 8, we'll average
6 to 8,
7?
yes.
7-inch clearance under the
Underneath the
fence
fence.
for low wildlife
Passage.
Okay, so,
Move to close the hearing.
anybody else?
No, yes, I just have one comment. I'm just curious on, okay, so it's the middle of the afternoon and, all of a sudden we get a deer that comes swimming across the water and goes into this fenced-in area and gets stuck inside the fence. And what do the neighbors do? I mean, it's fine for Mr. Delgado because Mr. Delgado and his family do not live in the area, but we do.
Then you call natural resources and say,
If I
Sorry.
may. Could you see what I'm showing on the Zoom hearing? It's a map of the project location.
I have a cop. No, I do not see that.
Okay, well,
But I have the plans. Is that what you're referring to?
I think you'll be able to see it on the plan as well. The fence is proposed along
Okay.
Michael Drive, and then it takes a sharp 90-degree corner and goes about 20 feet. That would leave the easterly side of the property entirely open with no fencing for wildlife to move as freely as they would wish easterly. The westerly side, or where the fence is proposed along Michael Drive, does not go all the way down to the water. So it's reasonable to believe that any animal would have the ability to find its way past that fence.
Okay. All right. Again, I'm totally against this, but I've already stated that, but thank you so much for your time.
thank you very much for your comments. I think we're it.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed. Someone wants to take a snap at the order of conditions for the notice of intent?
Move to accept the project with a standard order of conditions to include the wildlife signage that,
I would say
What is that?
our Wareham Conservation signage
Signage.
to be posted on the fence.
correct. And, was that it?
7 inches,
The fence needs to be between 6 to 8 inches, 7 inches above the ground,
no filling, no...
and no filling and no dredging to be done with this
And
project.
those are your standard, those are your order of conditions. That is the motion Denise has made.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. It passes. No work until you get your paperwork from Josh, all right?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you.
They will have to file with the state, so it will
Take
be
a
a
while
little
for
bit of
them.
a while till 91 makes their
Yeah, but they
decision.
could do the other stuff
Up to the water.
up to the
Yeah,
water.
correct. You are correct,
You
yes.
can do the fencing and the boardwalk up to the water, but the dock must wait for Chapter 91.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And if
Thank
you
Madam-
have any of that boats and stuff there, ought to bring them upland.
Get them out of the
And we'll-
wetlands.
and we'll speak to Gary Buckminster about the abandoned canoe that's there and other material in the,
At the end of Michael
The end of
Drive, yes.
yeah,
One of those hitches for moving a
Well,
boat is back in there,
okay.
too.
Trailer,
Trailer, thank you.
okay. So it's a done deal? Thank you very much.
One quick comment.
may I just say
No,
something?
the
And I know
hearing
you
is
already
closed.
voted. Wait a
Sorry.
minute.
Sorry, Tracy,
I-
the hearing is closed. We're not, no
I
more
know,
comments.
wait a minute. If you just give me 1 second.
No, you cannot.
I will,
We're here.
I will save you guys so much work. If you would,
Please,
So the hearing has been closed. We
I
cannot
own,
hear new
I own the
information.
boat.
Okay. Would you please
Okay,
remove your vote?
I own the paddle boat that is tied to the tree. So that's what I'm telling you. I will remove that this weekend if I can find someone to help me. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your honesty. Thank you.
I just want to say this setup right here that I haven't seen before, it's fantastic. To be able to put plans up like that and get the public involved
it's
and.
Josh. Thank you, Josh.
Excellent job.
He brought us.
He's bringing
Oh,
us
like
out of
that.
the Stone Age.
Give me a call and we can discuss the signage. I have it in my office, so.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good evening. Okey dokey. Next, please.
Okay, this is a request for notice of intent for David and Lisa Rycroft, GAF Engineering, 266 Main Street, Wareham, S. 02571, to remove a timber retaining wall and wooden fence and replace with a stone and vinyl fence. All work is located within the buffer to a coastal beach and coastal bank on the Assessors Map 39, Lot T20.B, 17 Oak Street, Wareham, S.
Thank you. And who's here representing this project?
Bob Rogers, GAF Engineering, on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you.
So this work is replacement work with a couple of just different materials. So it's right along the property line with the neighbor. So there was, I provided some pictures with the notice, and I did, I staked out the beginning and end of the fence, and then the roughly 20-foot section where the timbers and where the timbers would be removed and the new stone and mortar wall would go. So again, I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to take a look at that. So it's more or less maintenance work. There was some tree work that I believe fell over and sort of took out the old stockade fence. The owners would like a new vinyl fence, which is pretty light, and the metal supports for the vinyl fence would be pretty easy to put in. But so it's from the street where the rebar is down to the upper concrete retaining wall is where the fence would go, and then just above that we've identified a roughly 20-foot section of old rotted timber. Pretty shallow retaining wall. It's probably only 2 feet or so. In the past, it's the grandfather, I'm told, the family member, had built the portion of stone and mortar wall that we're tying into. They sort of have a sentimental attachment to that, and so that's why we're not proposing that all of that be replaced. Just where the timber one is now would end up being stone and mortar, similar to what the portion that's to remain. It doesn't look like much, but it's work that was done by the former family members that owned the property. So there's very little area where we need erosion control. It's just down at, again, along that upper concrete retaining wall. We're just proposing staked straw wattles. And I would leave the rest of the time to any questions.
Josh?
So I would agree that there was an existing stone wall and fence at the property. Your plan calls out an existing oak tree, which is no longer existing. So we have a big concern about the removal of that oak tree. It was one of 2 trees on the property. When we went there, we had advised the tree company to stop what they were doing, which they did not. Their reason for removing the tree was that it was rotted and unhealthy. I couldn't see any of that from the lumber that remains. So we have the potential of doing work, without a permit within the buffer to a resource area. And since you have staked, it's pretty clear that the fence goes right through where that oak tree did reside. So I would say, as far as the fence, I see no problem with that, and I would recommend the approval. As far as the removal of the tree without a permit, I would recommend a fine for the removal of the tree and the replanting of a new tree.
Was the tree on 17 Oak Street?
So the tree was,
On 15?
the tree was on 15, but it was removed by the property owners of 17, from what I'm told.
Okay.
No,
I didn't have any, when I went there to do my stakeout, I saw, the remains of the tree up by the road.
And that,
Right.
I don't, but I don't see on the plan, is that where we're showing the existing maple tree?
I don't see a stump.
If you look at that plan up there, see where my cursor is? We have
Okay, so
existing maple.
Right, so we label it as existing maple.
Right.
Hopefully, hopefully it was a maple, not an oak, and we mislabeled that, but,
Yeah, so
and so I don't know, obviously the tree came down, but I don't know who hired the tree cutter.
from what I understand, it was, the tree was on 15 Oak Street. The property owners of 17 got permission from 15 to remove it, and it seems like the removal of the tree was to allow for the installation of the fence. That would be my comment on it. And in my attempt to reach out to the property owner of the tree, I actually had 17 Oak Street give me a call and say, we are responsible for the removal of the tree, and whatever fines may entail, we will be responsible for those. So I guess.
I just didn't have that discussion, I'm
Yeah,
not saying
so
that.
the commission standpoint should be that there was vegetation removed from the property and it should be replaced. Whether we want to allow 17 to accommodate replacing it, or, go after 15 is, I guess, up to the discretion of the commission and the property owner of 17.
The site I visited was on the other side of of 15, on the edge of 11 and 13 and 15. A big, big, big tree. You can see the stumps that are there on the property. I thought it was the building next to Dawson. Because I had to go in front of a building up on a coastal bank. There was a pine tree there, and they were cutting down a hardwood. And it wasn't at 17,
Is that to the
and it
left?
wasn't at 15.
To the left?
Well, what Josh is saying is
No,
absolute.
it wasn't that one.
I think we may be talking about different projects, but what I have stated did happen at the project that we are discussing currently.
Okay. Because the ones I came across and called you on were a couple houses further up the beach, the other way.
Other way,
That cluster.
this way.
Whoop,
That cluster right there.
down, bring your cursor down to the water. Right there. That pine tree was there, and that hardwood was over, they complained about overlapping their property, and they cleared it on someone else's property. That's where I walked on when I called you. So it was a different site than where we're talking now.
Correct.
I just don't remember a maple on 17.
So I believe the maple that is gone now, right? You would agree with that, Bob?
Yes.
That maple is gone,
Yep.
and it was done within the last 3 months.
Yeah, part of the tree is
Yeah, and I
still...
would agree that it certainly would, you know, it
And-
may have caused damage to the old existing fence, but it certainly
In the way of,
would force a bump out, you know, so, you know, it's at the upper boundaries of the 100-foot buffer zone. But if
Okay,
they've
point-
already had conversations with Josh and they've agreed to accept some financial penalty, you know, then I just am not privy to that conversation.
Okay.
But we
Point,
can't replant a tree right up against the vinyl fence.
No,
It's going
He's
to grow
saying
and
that you have to put it back
damage.
in the
so
exact same
my
spot.
recommendation would not be that it goes in the same spot, but my recommendation would be that there's a tree planted, you know, and it seems like these two property owners are working together to have some type of relationship, so if there is a tree planted on either one of the properties, I think that would satisfy the commission in the removal of the tree. Sandy, as far as the other violation, I think we may have had a miscommunication, and I'll
because
go
I was
out
there when
and,
they were cutting the tree down, and I asked them to stop, and they told me no.
and it was not right along the road?
It was not along the road. I
Oh.
had to walk in front of another property. I had to walk in front of a house because it was on the coastal bank.
I will take a trip out there and,
They called the company, and the company says, you continue cutting. The neighbor asked that the tree be removed from another person's property.
So, and,
I think it was 15 and 13.
sure, that's fine, and so I just,
So-
just to end the tree
Yeah.
discussion.
It has nothing to do with you.
The second photograph, you know, so the second photograph in the notice of intent, you can see our survey van, and so it's back from when we did the survey in the winter, and you can see the maple tree, and I can see, you know, one of the limbs that's going over the property line is kind of snapped off, and, but you know, I think I can, on behalf of the owners, agree to a special condition that one replacement tree be planted in consultation with the agent as far as the location, so that it doesn't,
All right.
you know, cause
As he
a
brings
future.
up that picture, I'm going to ask Carol any questions on the project?
Yes. On the vinyl fence, how are you going to attach the vinyl fence to
Next one,
the...
so there it is.
Yeah.
So in the background there, beyond
It's not a
that
big
little-
tree.
Well, it was January or February survey, and, you know, but you can see it's kind of hanging over, and,
You can see that the logs are much bigger than that tree that are on the property right now. But anyway, Carol, your question?
yeah, so maybe the logs came from the other ones.
My question is simply, how are you going to attach the vinyl fence to the concrete and stone wall?
So there's going to
ramp
be,
set?
it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be offset. So the stone wall would be as close or on the line. You know, fortunately, it's a very well-marked line. We've got some rebars and some drill holes. And so, and again, it's only about a 2-foot high, 1 foot wide. The existing wall's small stone. I'm assuming they want it to look the same. And then the vinyl fence would be further in on the
Be
property of
On the
17.
dirt, set.
Correct. So they, you know, and the way, that's just the way it has to be. They will lose the ability to see that small stone wall.
Right,
You know,
right.
with the vinyl fence, would just have the metal posts, and it'll, you know, I don't know how many sections before you see you're just going to see a vinyl post and vinyl solid fence. But there's going to be an offset.
Okay, thank you.
Denise?
Just to make you aware, I know it's not our concern, but you can't have a 6-foot fence go all the way out to the road. It's got to drop down to 4 foot somewhere along the line for sight. But that's, you can work that out.
Yeah, I
with the
understand site. I don't know exactly how far from the layout line to the edge of pavement, but, and I don't know, I mean, if that's a requirement,
Yeah,
you know,
just
whether it's a fence viewers
not us,
committee or the
it's- yeah, there has to be a
building
fence thing.
inspectional services.
Being that we did not get
But
to
4 feet,
actually...
you're still sitting in a car, 4 feet's gonna
Yeah,
still
I know,
block
but
you.
I know that when we were doing our fence, that we had to drop the front area down to 4 feet. We did not get to evaluate the tree. The tree is down, part of it's laying in the thing. I think definitely there should be a fine related to that removal of that tree, and definitely a replacement tree that is viable and of a decent size. Where it's placed is going to be, I guess, between you and the owner, the tree owner or the property owner of the other property.
Yeah, I think there's a broader discussion to be had here with probably the applicant and how we want to move forward with that, because technically the tree was not on their property.
Right.
They have mentioned to me that it was their doing, that the tree is now removed. But yeah, it was not on their property, so.
It's but again, it was not in a resource area, it's not in a no-activity
Right,
zone.
they still need permission.
I don't, okay, but so I'm not going to agree to a fine and a replacement tree. I would agree to the replacement tree.
Well, they did work before they received approval. They took down a tree before they received approval to do this project. That's fineable.
Right, 10 feet.
And if it's something that
10 feet within a 100-foot buffer zone.
have been allowed, then there's a less than $300 fee. There's a fee associated with it. I don't know whether it's a $100 or $200 fee. Fine associated with doing work prior to approval, even if it would have been approved.
I understand what you're
Okay,
saying.
thank you.
Kwame,
No questions about the trees, thank you.
Autumn.
No questions, thank you.
If I take a look at the property, the abutting homeowner is a good 18 inches higher than the level of the owner's property. See the slope difference? Will the stone wall be high enough to counter the erosion of the higher property?
So we've got some,
Bob, look at the picture. I mean, you can see that there's a difference between the height of the two properties.
correct, but so we've got, portion of existing concrete block wall and the existing stone and mortar wall. And so, the only change we're going to make is right at the forefront of that picture where those landscape timbers are going to be removed to allow for the new stone and mortar wall. So there is no wall construction closer to the street than what you see in that photo.
So you'll make the wall tall enough to be at level with the abutter's property.
Correct.
Okay, and then the vinyl fence is going between this new stone wall and the person's property?
Inside the
Inside on
property
their
line of
property line?
17, yes.
The bunny won't be able to get across
You might be able to figure it out to run down to the end and
the
come
road,
around.
come out on the road and get hit on
Big,
Oak
trust
Street.
me.
Or go down the other way.
Real
Or just
big.
be happy living at 15. One or the other, I don't know.
I'm just concerned if we just ask the prior applicants to put in a 7-inch clearing. If I put in a 7-inch clearing, then I'm up against the stone wall. So I've gained nothing by taking the fence off, 7 inches off the ground.
The prior applicant was in a wetland wooded area.
This
is in
one
the
isn't, no.
neighborhood, and
I'm-
previously disturbed area
That's right.
already.
There's at least a bunny hit a week on that street. All right.
Sad.
Is there anybody you'd like to, Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
I asked you before?
Yeah,
I did.
it's okay. Better
Okay.
twice than not at all.
Better twice than by the wrong name. Anybody in the audience like to comment on this project? Anybody online?
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close the hearing and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
400, the hearing is closed. All right, we have the issue of the tree. I see nothing out of the ordinary for the standard order of conditions, but we need to talk about the clearing of the tree before approval and on somebody else's property.
Well, they had permission from the other
I haven't seen
homeowner.
it.
Oh, we don't
I
have
haven't seen it
notification
in
of that.
writing. You have anything in writing
But
saying?
you spoke with them.
I have not seen anything in writing from the owner of the tree giving them permission to remove it, no.
From 50, you haven't seen the owner of 15 given 17 permission to take the tree down.
That'd be correct.
You just have to look at the other side of 15.
I can do that.
Yep, down by the water.
I mean, it is possible that tree company did what you
They-
saw and what I saw,
They were there for a long time.
but
Oh, you think it was the same time frame that
Yes.
both, everything got
Yep,
removed?
same company.
Okay.
Okay, so who wants to take a crack at
Crack at it.
the conditions and fine, or
What is the fine for work done prior to approval that would have been approved?
Used to be $300, Mr.
No, it's less than that because it's work that was done that would have been approved versus work that was just done. Like the $300 fine would probably apply to the trees that were removed from the other side that nobody's ever asked permission to take trees from.
all
I
right,
know it's a lesser fine. You have it?
yep. Here's your worksheet.
Would have been approved. So a $200 fine. Starting work prior to required on-site inspection.
That's not the case.
Not the case.
Okay,
Working requiring COMCON approval that would have been approved.
Bob, when you had conversations with the applicant about putting in the fence, what was going to happen with the tree? Were you gonna build the fence around the tree, or was it a discussion to remove the tree?
I never had that discussion with him.
Because the placement of the fence on your plan
200.
shows it kind of going right through the tree. No?
Well, again, going by the picture, it looks like there's certainly potential that it could have been installed tight to it,
Size of a tree
but
or-
you're asking for, a maintenance issue later on,
Right. I would agree to that.
so when I look at that, because obviously the old wooden fence, of course, how long was that there? Was tight to it, and, again, is that what precipitated their agreement to remove? Because, hey, let's get rid of this eyesore fence, we're
Yeah.
gonna fix our wall, we're gonna put up a nice fence for both our benefit.
Do
So
we have
that's a photo I took today.
any idea what the condition of that tree
Right.
was?
If the material laying next to the stem is from that tree, I would say that it was not rotted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that,
That's what I walked around when I...
Yeah.
There was a big stump
Yeah.
there.
I think,
I would say it was probably a healthy tree.
Whether it
But
was
I-
healthy or not, it should not have been removed prior to approval. Correct?
well, sometimes we can take down a diseased tree.
Well, we didn't get to evaluate it. They
No.
took it down before we got to see the tree.
A $200 fine?
That's what I'm thinking. I would move to accept the project with a $200 fine and a replacement tree that's viable and of a decent size, I guess. I don't know how you dictate what kind of a tree or,
Well-
it's got to be a replacement tree of some type.
So again, I would say that I think there needs to be a further discussion with the applicant and maybe the actual property owner, because the tree technically did not belong to 17 Oak Street.
All right, so then we would move to accept
So-
the project with a $200 fine and a replacement tree to be discussed with the owner of both the property and the fence, and you're going to take care of that discussion and come to an agreement as to the type of tree and placement of the tree.
That sounds appropriate.
Second.
Plus a standard order of conditions.
Plus a standard order of
Okay,
conditions.
second.
Second. I have a motion
And a second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
All right, thank you so much, I'll let the owners know, and
My
Thanks,
brain,
Bob.
Don't
Yeah,
work
this-
until you get your paperwork.
Certainly not.
I know more
Okay.
work.
unless you want another fine, and then we can give you.
Unless you want another fine, right?
All right, we're on to the next one.
Okay. What do we have here now?
Everybody went there, you noticed it wasn't staked out, or was I the only one that went there too soon? Okay,
Okay.
There were mistakes in it today, weren't there?
some,
So requests for notice of intent for Tina DeAngelis, Lockwood Architects LLC, PO Box 95, Onset, Mass. 02558, to construct a gazebo and porch on Assessors Map 28, Lot 47 and 48, 21-23 Bayberry Road, Wareham, Mass.
and who's here representing the project?
Bill Lockwood, Lockwood Architects.
Okay. Okay, Bill, tell us about the project, please.
Okay, it's a very small project, 12 feet in diameter off the end of the existing house. It's a gazebo porch, be constructed on existing lawn area. We'll put one hole in the ground with 8 piers, which will then fill back in, and we'll surround it with hay bales during the course of construction. And in the back of your packet, you can get an idea what it'll look like. In the front of your packet, you have site plan. And
Did you say lawn? I thought the plan showed it going on the driveway.
It still shows crushed stone.
okay, it is a crushed stone there, yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That's about it.
Josh?
No, yeah, it's a proposed gazebo on crushed stone driveway. I see no issues with the project, and I would recommend approval.
Carol?
No questions, thank you.
Denise?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thanks.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
I was disappointed it wasn't staked out.
I apologize. Did slip up on that. It was fairly self-evident where that was going to be, but I apologize for not staking it out.
All right,
You
anybody?
will in the future, right?
I
course you
will do better in the
You
future.
gimme.
Yes, ma'am. And I don't believe we have a DEP number yet, do we?
We do.
Oh, we do, okay. I didn't get
795.
notified. Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody in the audience or online would like to comment on this project? Seeing none?
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Thank you.
Move to accept the project with a standard order of conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Done. No work until you get your paperwork.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next one, please.
Okay, this is a request for notice of intent for Peyton Estates, J.C. Engineering, 2854 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a paved road to access a 2-lot subdivision on Assessors Map 74, Lot 1010-A3 and 1010-D off Squirrel Island Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here to represent this project?
Good evening, Brad Bertolo from JC Engineering on behalf of Dos Amigos Realty LLC, the applicant. Oh, I have the plan on the screen up there.
It's just a 2-lot subdivision.
Correct.
Thank you.
So what we're proposing here is the construction of a roadway that leads to a hammerhead turnaround at the end. Just the northerly end of the, I guess, the circular cul-de-sac area, property line, although we're not building a cul-de-sac. and the drainage basin and a portion of the roadway is within 100 foot of the wetlands that are located to the north. This is a two-lot subdivision, subject to a 30-foot minimum setback requirement from the wetlands. This project's gone through the planning board. It's been peer-reviewed with drainage. The drainage system is sized to handle a 25-year storm. A swale on the north side of the road will capture water and convey it down and discharge it into this basin. It's not subject to the stormwater management policy because of the size, but we are providing a stormwater basin because of the pitch of the road heads down towards the wetland and follows basically the contours of the property now. We do show a erosion control barrier around all the proposed work that's within 100 feet. So we feel there's going to be no impact to the wetlands. If you have any questions, I'm not sure if you've been to the site. We staked it out, but with the amount of white pines out there, it's probably hard to navigate.
I couldn't even find where the road would begin on Squirrel Island.
I could see the flags all the way inside, and somebody was there today. There was a truck, JC Engineering truck was there,
Oh, we were staking out
across the street.
Another project.
10 Squirrel Island, I
10
believe.
Squirrel Island, which is just one lot to the left of the house that's on there. That is an upcoming filing, so we're about 2 weeks early on the stakeout.
Yay. Very good.
Yeah, so well, at least that's where the location is for that
I
one.
drove that road at least up, down, and I couldn't find any stakes.
You saw a little orange thing
No,
flapping
I
at us.
was in a small car, so I
Oh,
didn't have
okay.
any height. Anyway, I tried.
It's pretty thick back
It's-
there.
It was woods. I would have taken a picture of white pine. Oh, Josh?
Yeah, I would agree. It's very thick back there. Plenty of ticks, too. I don't know if you guys ran into that issue, but when I was out there, there were plenty of ticks. Nope, like Brad said, it's a two-lot subdivision, so it doesn't hit the requirements of our 50-foot wetland setback. It only requires the 30-foot setback. As Brad had mentioned, the drainage, because of how the land is pitched, they created the road to capture the drainage in the retention basin towards the end of the subdivision. So with that being said, I would recommend approval with our standard conditions.
Okay. Questions? Carol?
No questions.
Denise?
No questions.
Kwame?
No questions, thanks.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
I have none. Anybody in the audience would like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none. Anybody online? Is there anybody left online?
There are.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Motion to accept this project with a standard order of conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, done.
Thank you.
We have continued hearings that 10, 14, and 16 River Terrace has asked a continuance until,
June 21st. They have supplied me with revised plans, and I will supply those to the commission. I believe we've made good progress on getting the appropriate approval of the actual property owners. So I think they will be ready to present at our next hearing.
so they have not gone stale.
Correct.
Okay, I need a motion to continue until 6:21.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. We're going to continue. We have Pinehurst Beach Association.
So I am setting up a meeting with the engineer to kind of finalize their entire application, and they will be ready to present on the 21st as well.
Okay. The request is a continuance until June 21.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The next continued hearing was Shakley, 19 over Jordan Road.
Yep.
Any comments?
So they have requested a continuance. We just got the eelgrass survey back, and we're potentially waiting for the recommendation from the harbor master. So they again, feel like they'll be ready to present at June 21st, and I will share the new information that we just received.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to continue to June 21st.
thank you.
Second.
And I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400, continued. Now, we have Shell Lane drainage issues.
Correct. So, yeah, you guys feel free to come up.
I just sent you an email, Josh.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Bob Dermody. This is my sister Mary Dermody. We live at 8 Shell Lane, seasonally. And I just sent some photos via email to Josh that might be helpful to show
Could you spell your last name for me?
Certainly, D as in David, E-R-M-O-D-Y.
Thank you.
So I had called Josh a while ago. He came out, and I'm here just to have a discussion. We have some drainage issues there that seem to be getting a little worse. So a little context. Shell Lane is a one-lane private dirt road off of Lydia Island Road, which is off of Great Neck Road.
Is that the one we just had 3 houses new built? Houses?
2 new, yes.
2 new houses
Yep.
and some dock request, okay.
Yep.
We all know where that sucker
we
is.
all know where this
Can't
is.
find it on the map, but we know where it is.
So some additional context, as I said, it's a one-lane dirt road, private.
Is that new?
What do you mean new?
Drainage,
That picture,
no, that drainage issue.
In that state, yes.
that's why we're
Because I
here.
never remember seeing water on that road before.
Yeah.
Well, there
Sorry.
has been, but it's grown from puddles, wet spots to puddles to worse to now
I will
this.
not interrupt you again, thank
No,
you.
that's okay. So,
I'm just gonna get these so they're blown up a little bit.
Thanks.
Which involves me having to extract them, so just.
sorry about that. So,
No, it's just
Can I
when you
keep talking?
download it, please feel free.
yeah, so there were 2 houses on the road, and both were seasonal until 2 years ago. One house changed to year-round. The 2 new houses are year-round. We're still seasonal. And it just is not good. And it was brought to my attention by a neighbor. We're not there in the winter. She texted me and said, just so you know, the road's really bad.
Which house is yours? All the way at the end?
No, we're not at the end. We're number 8.
Okay,
Yeah, we're small cottage on the left before you get to the last one.
okay.
Yeah. And that's my car there, parked there. That's my driveway. Our house would be to the right. There is a marsh to the left, as you might remember. So my neighbor asked me what we wanted to do about it, or can we do something about it? And I said, well, I think we should talk to the town. Josh came out and met with all of us on the site. We haven't changed our property at all. The 2 new houses went in, and the other house next to us changed from seasonal to year-round.
If I recall, when we talked about those 2 houses, we put in some type of swale along the road to prevent this from happening.
Correct.
So there is a swale.
On water side, we put
Yep.
in some ditches to accommodate the
Yeah,
runoff.
they're there. They were put in.
So I'd say that there's a swale that starts right around where my cursor is
Uh-huh.
and comes to just about the fence, maybe stops a few feet short.
We overflowed it, big time.
So it looks like, do you know when this photo was taken?
I think this was last October.
Okay, so the swale would definitely be in place in its final form at the time of this photo.
Yeah, and we're just trying to find a solution, maybe. We're trying to be good neighbors, trying to, work with our neighbors to figure something out here. But we don't want to do a big infrastructure project. We don't,
So I think,
Did we, on the water side, did we put up some type of barrier, a dam on the water side to prevent this from flowing into the wetlands? Because you can see that it looks like there's some type
So-
of disturbance.
I don't think that there was anything constructed there, but I think naturally there must have been some type of high
the
area.
road was required to be sloped inland,
Yes,
which was done.
yep.
Yeah.
Then
It's on-
that's
it's-
toward the
Toward the
two
swale, yeah, exactly.
ditches that we put in.
Yeah. And there are other ditches further up the road that were installed as well. But this one is sort of the low point.
So it's not
Well, there
working.
may be a combination of things going on here with the increased use of the road. It could have been compacted to now there's a little bit more flooding there. It's a potential possibility. It's tough to say, but I guess.
It used to drain more quickly.
Right.
I mean, we did have the issue with the high water table. And I only know that because my playground flooded and it stayed flooded for several days. Because the water table was so high, it couldn't soak into the ground.
Back in October, you mean?
And that was, things like that, well, not in October, we had it since then, because the
Okay.
playground's been
Yep.
done since.
And this doesn't happen all the time, it's more with rainstorm events.
Yeah, that's a major
Which, quite
problem
frankly,
there.
happen more often when we're not there. So it's more of a hassle for my neighbors, but it happens to be on our property.
You're probably right. The heavy equipment for the construction went back and forth that road could very well have,
I
Compacted it.
don't know that the construction equipment would have had to go that far down the road.
one of the houses down the inn had some work done on their driveway.
Okay, so yeah, that could be a possibility. I was probably thinking of just continual use, or maybe an Amazon truck or two going down there could add additional weight.
But there's only those, what, 3, 4 houses at the very end?
And I would say that there's only 2 houses past where this puddle is.
That's right.
The Dermody's and the house on the end.
Yeah, the 2 houses are from that fence toward Linear Island Road.
Now,
But
is
ma-
either one of
the
the
newer
new
one.
houses, either one of the houses that are down on that far end, one of the houses that is gone now year-round?
Both are year-round.
Both are year-round? Were they always year-round?
Out of the 4 houses on the road,
new.
3 are now year-round.
Okay.
One is and always has been seasonal.
Okay, so those 2 have always been year-round?
No, they're brand new.
Oh, they're
The brand new ones.
down
Oh,
But they were
past-
built as year-round.
Oh,
Yeah, to give
okay.
you a little context, the end of Shell Lane would be behind you in the photo.
I'm looking towards Lydia Island Road in
Right.
that photo.
So the new houses that were just constructed would be to the upper right-hand corner of this photo.
Where you see that
Okay.
pylon.
Where the orange cone is,
Yep.
that's one
That's where the
driveway.
new houses are.
Those would
Yeah.
be
'Cause
4
it
and
looks like-
6, I believe.
It looks like the water just, it looks like it slopes in that direction towards your property. In front of, well, towards your, in front of your property and causing the water to run that way.
So I will mention, I had just been out there the other day when we were having the rainstorms. Granted, the rainstorm we just had wasn't probably as severe as what created this photo. And there was some puddling there, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it was still the 2-track puddle, you could still
Yeah,
see the middle.
so where the
this
tires.
You
is-
can make
This
the
is-
middle out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is last October, I believe.
But I would say that you do see heavy storms that would leave this. It's not, I would say this isn't rare, right?
It's getting more common.
Right, okay, that's a better way to put it,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think what they're looking for is maybe a suggestion from the commission on how to move forward from this, without creating a whole engineering plan with,
And it's complicated because it services different families, and some of us own both sides of the road, some of us own one side and then the other. So we're just trying to find something that's simple and acceptable.
Right, and it's a private way,
Right.
so that, it's not like we can just tell the town, go fix it.
exactly, yeah. The way that it would work is, the property owner would own halfway to the private way. If there's another property owner on the other side of the street, they also own halfway, and
Yes.
yeah,
yes,
so,
It can be a drawback.
How could you get it then to flow into the wetland where it should, is that
Oh,
where
you
it should
gotta
be
add-
going?
No, you gotta add
we
more material.
would not want it to
So
flow
you don't
directly
want it
into
to
the
go to
Redland.
No, we
the, to the
don't want it
left?
to drain
You
in.
want it to still go to the right?
Other than having the new homeowners make their drainage ditch bigger.
And
Well, if the drainage ditch
So-
they put in isn't working, isn't that what has
It's
to
not
be?
big enough.
That's what I mean. If it's not working, then isn't that what has to be done?
Because it looks like it's flowing out of that drainage ditch into the low point in front of your house.
Well,
Or between the fence and,
Yeah, the fence is the property line between my home and the Connolly's home next door.
I would say the drainage dish was not sufficient to carry a heavy rain event.
And can I ask another question? I talked to Josh about this. I just want to be clear on the thinking behind not letting it flow into the wetlands.
It's a lot of dirt. It's
Plus
a
you
lot
get
of
the
So-
oils and stuff from the roads.
oils and stuff like that coming off the road. I mean, it would have to have a stormwater mitigation before it went into the
It would
wetlands.
have to be treated by some
Yeah.
type of retention basin if you were to
Is
put
that-
it into the wetlands.
Is that considered different since it's already a gravel dirt road? Is that different than a parking lot, which is a hard surface, which would have more runoff? Or would it be treated the same? Does that-
I would treat it the same. I
Same,
mean, to
yeah.
me, an oil drip is an oil drip, whether it's on a paved road or a dirt
Okay.
road. That's my,
Yeah, well, that's, I asked Josh that. I just want, that's why I'm here, to get info from the board.
Right, well, I'm thinking that if what was put in is not sufficient to handle it, then it needs to be fixed. How do you go about doing that?
So I wasn't.
I don't want to be the cause of work for
No,
my
no, no,
neighbors.
No, I wasn't here when the discussions of the new construction were taking place. I don't know what the commission had decided was adequate in terms for that swale.
I can't remember the dimensions.
Is that something you could look up and make sure that the swales were constructed the way they were supposed to be, that it wasn't overlooked?
Or filled in with debris and
Or-
vegetation?
You know, that they're not as deep as they're supposed to be, or not as large as they're supposed to be?
Yeah, the plan that was approved by the commission should outline how big that swale was with elevations. So
Right.
it is something I can look into.
Because, if it's not constructed the way it's supposed to be, then that's on the people that built them, because they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and that's an easy thing to overlook when it comes to signing off on it and signing the certificate of compliance, or whatever we have to do with that.
And has the commission issued a certificate of compliance for those projects?
I don't
Don't believe
think
so.
so.
Okay.
We have not.
So if it's not constructed to the means of which it was approved by the commission, that's a discussion to be had. If the certificate of compliance has already been closed out, I would say it's a little harder without it being specified in the order.
I think one of them had a modified order of conditions, changed the plan after the fact.
Right.
These are less than 2 years old. I don't think they've come before us for
So,
order of conditions.
and, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the goal of tonight's discussion is to find out who's at fault.
Nope.
I think it's more to, discuss ways they may be able
How to
to
move forward.
mitigate what's happening.
Sort of a fact-finding. I'm not
Yeah,
applying for
it's
anything,
more
just
about
asking
what's
questions.
causing it.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Right.
Well, it was brought to my attention by my neighbor over the winter. She would send me photos, and it's hard for her to walk her dog on certain days. So
My
I
car
said,
would have been very unhappy to be in all that mud.
Right.
I wouldn't have gone down that road.
No, I wouldn't have
I
either.
would have turned
So,
around.
They drive trucks, so they're able to drive in and out. I don't think it's a safety issue, it's an inconvenience.
Yes.
And you can't get out the other end, correct? There's a fence that goes across.
Correct.
At the other end, so it's not like you've got
So-
an alternate route.
It's a dead end.
Yeah.
And I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you guys want to burden, maybe the potential costs of a whole project because it seems like it doesn't really affect you.
No, well, it does affect us, not as much as our neighbors, because we're not there as often. I
Right.
want to be a good neighbor. I do live there. I've been there longer than everybody on the road and hope to be. We're trying to find a solution for the neighborhood.
Right.
They asked, they approached me, and then we had a discussion just via text, and then I said, well, I think we should call the town. So we invited Josh out. He came and met with all of us. And that's when I asked, I don't have a plan or anything. Can I come and talk? He said, sure, we'll put you on the agenda. And that's all that I'm here for tonight.
What are the orange poles that are in the,
Just a stake as to, I think that had something to do with the dock in that area.
Now, I put
give
those
this
in
gentleman-
every winter, so if
Oh,
a snowplow comes through, that they
You know
try to
how
stay
far
in
to
the
go.
road.
oh,
Okay.
okay, I see.
Yeah.
Because that's an area where we're having the dock.
Yeah,
And one of them, I did have the property surveyed, so that might have been locating a property corner for me or something.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So I do believe the commission has allowed road maintenance as an exception to the bylaw in the past, not requiring some type of filing. I think then you get into, what can we consider road maintenance and what's an actual project?
Where are they going to scrape the road? They're not going to affect what goes into the drainage ditches, because you don't want them sweeping the road and putting up the dirt or a barrier against the wetland side, being the left side.
Correct.
You don't want to impact the water retention basins on the right side, so it would be a tough, even if they were to fill in with a big pothole with soil.
This is a private road?
Yes.
So how is it maintained?
I
There's
would
been,
say informally.
by the people who live on the street? or-
Historically, yes, some prior residents who don't live there any longer bought some gravel years ago, put it down, we drove over it for years, it kind of gets crushed and gets kicked up and goes away.
Or get stomped on and get buried, which prevents it from draining.
Perhaps.
It also looks like it really hasn't been maintained.
Well, it was, the gentleman next door, when the planning board required the road to be improved for the subdivision.
Right.
And he did that and did a great job.
Easy.
So that, it wasn't, also I would argue there really wasn't much need for maintenance.
Well,
Didn't get used much.
Right,
obviously it doesn't need, it needs something.
right,
But
yeah, exactly.
what it needs, I don't know.
So-
I'm definitely not qualified to say you've got to, put gravel down so that it runs somewhere, but where's it going to run?
We had a storm not too long ago with 2 inches. Did it flood then? Or you weren't here?
Depends when it was.
It was about a month and a half ago? You
I wasn't
probably
here
weren't
yet.
here.
Yeah, but I think I did get a text from my neighbor about that storm.
Because that was, anything other than that, we've had rainstorms, but not significant.
And I would say, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last couple summers, at least one was a severe drought, so it wasn't a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Where is it supposed to go?
So-
It goes into that drainage ditch, or what is that thing called? The
Swale.
swale. And where does it go from the swale
Absorbed into the soil.
into the soil?
So, as we sit here and discuss this, if there was no certificate of compliance ever issued for the projects at the Connolly's house, and the drainage swale was part of the project, they could come back with an amended order of conditions, which, financially wouldn't be a big deal as far as permitting wise goes. They could amend the swale to, redesign it to potentially hold more water. And that would, I think that might be the easiest way, considering we already have an open permit.
Yep. So the swale is up between where the fence is, past the cone. That's one swale, and then there's a swale in front of the other house that was built. You can see that the silk fence shows you where the work has been done in there.
There are multiple swales running along
Yes,
that side.
that whole length
Right.
of that, yes.
Yes, and those were all installed.
Yes, it's-
So-
yes.
Yep.
But there's no swales coming across your proproperty?
Correct.
Correct.
As I said, we haven't
Right.
changed our property at all.
They haven't come before.
90 years.
No work- Yeah,
Yeah.
no work has been done there.
So there might be a larger conversation to be had with the Connollys about maybe improving their swale to, potentially take in more water. Like I said, I think the commission has allowed road maintenance as an exception to the bylaw, so I don't think they would need any permitting to maybe adjust the pitch of the road to drain into the Connolly swale if that is improved enough for, holding this.
Well, I can remember the commission having an issue with the town of Wareham doing road maintenance down on Rose Point that caused flooding because they didn't come to us ahead of time with their plans. So we've had issues in the past of unpermitted road maintenance causing problems. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not,
I can't remember a private one coming to us.
so I can't say that I'm versed in the way that the planning board applications are handled, but it sounds like that the improvement of the road was also part of their permitting process. So if their application is still open, again, I don't know how it works, but if their application is still open, it seems like the road maintenance can be handled under open permits.
Well, I'd get a hold of Mr. Buckland and see what he has in his files.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
sorry we have no answer, but thank you for
No,
bringing it
we've-
before us of the
We've learned a
problem.
lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tremendous amount.
Appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
and again, feel free to call me if you,
I sit on that side of the table in my hometown a lot, so I empathize. So yeah, thank you. If we have other questions, I'll reach out to Josh, or
Please.
if, I'll talk to my neighbors, and we're just trying to find a solution for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh.
no
Thank you.
problem.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
We have the discussion of the fines, the formation of the...
Could I, excuse me, could I just add to that?
Sure, please identify yourself.
I'm 12 Shell Lane at the end, Cynthia Mello.
Okay,
I just wanted to let you know, in the chat, I posted 3 pictures from December, January 16th, January 13th of what the flooding of the road did at that time.
so I will say December 23rd was an unusual date because of, it was an unusually high tide with the winds coming in from another direction, and it actually looks like the salt marsh there overflowed into the road. I know that everyone around Wareham had a problem with that date in particular.
Correct.
But yeah, there definitely is the lack of drainage in that section of the road, even when it's not overtopping from the salt marsh.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to share the photos. Those are the ones I shared with Bob, so.
Gotcha.
Those are the ones she sent me by text.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
again.
good one.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Did anybody get the minutes of May 3rd and May 17th?
These were,
Did I miss them again?
no, you commented
I
on these. They
commented on
they were
those.
early. I had sent them out prior to the meeting packet.
Did that.
So
I don't think I got them either.
you should have got them like 2 weeks ago.
May 3rd.
Yeah, because he said he was sending them out early.
I said I had them and I was sending them out early. You made comments on them, Sandy.
Did I get, did I
did
also
too.
do the 17th?
Yep.
Okay, so someone would like to make a motion to accept the minutes of May 3rd and May 17th?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? We're accepting the minutes as presented. We can't approve them, we're accepting them, and I'm sorry.
Gotcha. No,
I did comment, I
you and
remember
Denise-
commenting on something.
you and Denise both made comments on the minutes and I changed them to reflect the comments that were made, so I have those ready to be signed tonight.
Okay.
And just so that you know, also Sandy, I filled out my form for having missed a
Missed a
meeting,
meeting.
but I did watch it.
Okay. We wanted it scheduled for fines and the formation of minutes, but we also have Paula Jean here, O'Neill, is back here for an interview and discussion, so on. Come on down, Paula Jean.
Thank you.
This is her second time in front of us, and then she would like to be appointed as an associate member of conservation.
What's her last name?
O'Neill.
O'Neill? N-E-I-L? O'Neill?
Yes.
N-E-I-L?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, well, this is one of many meetings you've sat through.
I think this is like 6th or 7th.
Yes,
all
you've been
since
here
I've
to
been
more
here.
than once, and 2 formally after you submitted your application.
Yep.
Do you have any questions for us?
I'm making a list as I go. If we end up, if I do end up working with you, I didn't know if you had a collection of documents or something with bylaws that pertain to this committee, or is it just in with everything from the town?
If you
Like a
go-
workbook, something I should,
If you go to the town and look for bylaw 6,
Division 6.
Division 6 in the town bylaw, which can be found on the clerk's webpage, town clerk's webpage, it says town bylaws.
okay?
If you share your email address with me, I can forward you it specifically, so you don't have
Fantastic.
to
Okay.
go through the
Thank you
entire
very
town
much.
bylaw. Yep.
Okay, because I realize I'm going to need to get, I would need to get up to speed and picking up on the vernacular by
When you
sitting
read
here.
them, be wide awake and have a cup of coffee.
Because they will melt your brain.
We also have funds to redo them, so we
Oh.
have approved funds to revitalize, improve, strengthen our bylaws, so.
And if you have any
So they could change
suggestions-
within the next couple
And if
months.
she has any
Okay,
suggestions.
hopefully for the better, right?
Yes, if you have any
Only for the
suggestions
better.
while you're reading through them, let us know.
If you find
If
any.
you have any suggestions for us while you're
Okay.
reading through them, let us
All right.
know.
Thank you.
Next question.
Well, I was
comment.
just making notes here, like, for instance, a -3 determination, like, what's that? So there's a lot I don't know, but I
Negative is a
imagine.
good thing. -3 and -2, -6, depends on what impact it has to the
Okay.
wetlands around it as what it is. But negative is an acceptance. It's not a bad thing.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So a quick, easy definition of it is the application that we would give a negative determination for is called a request for determination of applicability. That request basically gives the commission the ability to say, is your project going to affect a resource area?
Okay.
So when they give you a negative, they're saying, your project will not affect the resource area, we're okay with the work. As far as the different numbers of the negatives, a -3 is that, it may be within the buffer, but it's not going to affect the resource area. A -6 speaks to if there's exemptions for the project, and that would, any exemptions would make it a negative, and, kind of defining it like that.
Okay.
But if you issue a positive determination for that request, it would require the applicant to either not do the project or file a notice of intent.
Okay, a little bit counterintuitive.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
Normally, we tell applicants you want a negative determination with those.
okay. And I was happy to hear you want to save the bunnies.
Don't always work that way, but I try.
Yeah, that counts. No, I don't have any really specific questions. It's obviously a learning curve, just to follow along and learn the language.
You learn a lot over time, and you don't even realize you're learning it.
And I will also mention the MACC, which is the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners, offers classes. They offer like an introductory course, a certificate program,
They have a certificate program.
where they offer 6 fundamental classes, which go over site plan review, why wetlands are important, reviewing applications, things of that nature. And then they offer what are considered, I guess, more high-level courses. So they're definitely a great resource. And when you are appointed to the commission, you have you are part of it. You have
Access to
a
funds to pay for
subscription.
them.
A subscription to the MACC.
The town
Where?
pays our fees for belonging to them.
Thank you.
And you can do it online as
Oh, that
opposed to,
was
I had to go to
great.
Holy Cross for every one of mine. It was always seemed to be in the winter, and it was the toughest steps to go up and down to lunch and back to our conferences, so it's a lot easier online than,
Online.
Yep. So
Online's great. So all of you have done that, all 6 of the courses?
can't say that, but I'm sure we've
I
taken
have.
some.
Yeah?
I am.
Okay.
I actually just finished my certification. So the courses are really worth it. There are funds to pay for them. You might have to pay ahead of time and get reimbursed, but you just have to get approval before you take the class if
Okay.
you intend to get
That's good to
reimbursed
know.
for it.
Good education.
So we have, currently, we have one associate member. We have a position of possible 3, so we have an opening of an associate. Autumn was just appointed by the selectmen for conservation. I need to verify it was done for full-time membership or a continuation of her association, but that will be cleared up. Carol was just reappointed to us, to Conservation Commission. Both of these will be effective July 1st. So we definitely have an opening for an associate. And any questions? I'm going to ask Kwame,
No questions, thank you.
please.
No questions. I have some material so that I can give you pertaining to eelgrass.
Yeah, that would be very
And
interesting.
docks, some
Queen
docks.
of eelgrass.
I just put an article out and I got published. I'll have
Well,
you know.
congratulations.
In the Wareham, what is the Wareham Trust?
Yeah, eelgrass
Paper.
is a good thing.
It is a good
Yeah.
thing,
Yes.
very
Why
good
we
thing.
get scallops.
Want it,
Carol,
right.
anything?
No questions, thank you.
I have a thank you very much for stepping up.
Yes.
Realize every other Wednesday, first and third Wednesdays. So if there's a fifth Wednesday, you got the day off.
You get 3 weeks in a row
I
off.
figured
That's
that out,
very
'cause-
exciting.
I will also mention that my position is to advise the Conservation Commission. So if you have any questions or, any questions on applications, any questions on projects, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, my door is always open. So
Thank you. That's great.
Plus, you get a fluorescent orange vest and a name plaque.
Oh, man.
So Josh has notifies us with the with the agenda and how to access all the plans. So we go online and we click on and get copies of the plans, so we're not as paper-driven as we used to be.
Yeah, that's good.
So we're trying, but
We are trying.
can someone do a motion to request the
Appointment?
recommendation for appointment to an associate member for Paula Jean?
Yeah, what she said.
So moved.
Okay.
I have a motion.
Say so moved.
I have a motion and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
400. What it is, as an associate, you can see that Amber is asked, Autumn is asked questions, but cannot vote because associates do not vote, but you can be part of the discussions and whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do.
You can voice your opinion.
Yes.
We're just going to change your name to Autumn Amber.
No, we're gonna start finding you.
You'll have to talk to my
We're gonna
parents.
put a jar out.
Amber
No
Wood, it's
pun
nice to meet you.
intended.
I'm
Stop
used to it.
finding.
My mother doesn't know my name, it's fine. She gave us
Mothers
all a
never
name.
know your name.
As long as they don't call you the dog's name, you're fine.
I call
I've
my
gotten
kids
that.
the dog's name, the cat's
So I
name.
have a motion of 400, and I will send a letter off to the selectmen recommending your appointment as an associate member.
Thank you very much.
And the membership of associates good for 1 year, so it's the start. We are a board of 7, and right now we have 6, and Miss Wood would be the 7th.
That was one way around it.
That gives you a learning curve.
Right, just to be here and listen.
Okay,
All right.
sit there and listen if you want, but do you want to talk about the formation of the minutes and schedule of fines? Do you want to say it's 8:30 and that's enough?
I think we can get through it really fast.
Yeah, I don't think it would take very long for either one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here are the fines. What you have is the written word. Denise here made a recommendation for formatting this
I like charts.
chart.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So it's one of those things that we're looking at, this would probably go on our town website. So the question is, do you feel the chart conveys what the written word wanted to do? So work requiring conservation approval that would have been approved. If it was done, it would have been approved and done in the wetlands, 300 in full restoration. If it's done in the no-work zone, 300 with full restoration. If it was done in the flood zone, just a fine with no restoration. 100 foot from the edge of the wetlands, 200 fine, and just a filing, no restoration. And 200 feet from a riverbank, a fine with no restoration with a notice of a RDA. So that tells me for the wetlands and no work zone, they do full restoration, but they do not have to provide a RDA or an NOI. Am I reading that chart correctly?
Right, I just took what
Yeah,
you
I-
had given me verbally
Yeah,
and
so what this
broken into a
does
chart.
is a different view of what we have for words.
It
Could
has-
the words be wrong?
I didn't think so. Did you guys review her description?
Yes, this was approved.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a change in any way other than putting it in, I think, an easier format to find.
Then you have your next set of the $300 fine if the work would not have been approved in the 5 conditions. 300 with full restoration in all 5, and the others is the starting work before the inspection, failure to comply with a notice of intent.
And then if we give them dates, the fine goes into a daily fine versus a flat fee.
If you're comfortable with this formatted Excel spreadsheet, we can, Denise can forward it to IT and have it installed on our website.
I have a question. I'm not understanding why 100 foot from the edge of the wetlands and 200 feet from the river bank on work that would have been approved requires the filing of an RDA or an NOI, but in the wetlands and 30 to 50 foot no work zone doesn't require it.
Because they wouldn't have been able to file because it's not an area they couldn't do any work in.
Okay.
But you can do the work within 100 feet and 200 feet of the riverbank. Work could have been done, but there could have been no work done within the wetland or the 30 to 50 foot. It's my understanding. You give me an RDA, but you're going to be denied because you can't do anything in that area anyway.
Okay.
It's my understanding.
It'd be work within a resource area.
Yep.
Which is defined as, filling, dredging, altering,
Yep.
which, our definition of altering is the removal of vegetation, et
Then
cetera, et cetera.
I guess my question would be then, number 1 and number 2, in the wetlands, work requiring COMCON approval that would have been approved in wetlands, number 1 or number 2, they wouldn't have been approved anyway, correct?
Right.
So maybe 1 and 2 needs to be taken out because it's covered in the next section of 1 and 2. There's never any work, really, is there, approved in the wetlands? Oh, we just
No,
did
we
one
just-
tonight?
Yep.
Okay, never
Yeah.
mind.
But what
Cancel
about
that.
in the flood zone? Shouldn't that also have to require filing an RDA or an NOI? If you're looking at it from the same standpoint of, we wouldn't have approved it because it's within the 30 or 50. In a flood zone, we'd have the exemptions for certain things that we've approved in a flood zone.
So if we've said for an RDA for within 100 feet or 200 feet, should we also say for an RDA within the flood zone?
Yeah, that would seem to make sense.
Okay, so
Oh,
I'll put the
good.
word yes
And
in there.
again,
Like I
So-
said, you learn things.
Yeah,
if you're here long enough.
Well, sometimes it helps to have, looking at this with a fresh set of eyes.
And this will be reviewed by whoever we get to review the bylaw. So, this list that we are currently making may be expanded and reviewed by a consultant and a lawyer, so.
I didn't think our fees were included in the bylaw.
They're not, but we might be able to include them, is that what you're saying?
I believe our fees are.
In the-
So the maximum
Fines,
is
not
state,
fees. Fines.
so our fines are set to the maximum of what's allowable by the
Which
state,
is what these are.
right? And they should be laid out in the bylaw.
Okay. So with this change made that Denise is going to do for flood zone into work that would have been approved requiring an RDA or NOI, would that change, someone would like to make a motion that be added to our town conservation commission webpage in whatever appropriate place to put it?
Okay.
Denise, you also have
I have a,
typo,
where is it? I know I have one somewhere, but I couldn't. Oh,
Approached.
here, approached.
starting approach.
I have fixed that on my
Okay.
copy at home.
I assumed it was
Thank you.
approved.
Yeah, it was approved. Website, IT,
All right.
posting.
Someone
We need a motion?
Go ahead, make a motion.
would be
So
nice.
accept it.
Yeah,
Wait.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, the format of the minutes, we talked about maybe there's a way of cutting it down so it doesn't sound like a
Transcription.
and
Yeah.
cutting it
much.
down, because it was said to me that if it is a transcription and an error was made, then it's part of a formal record and be used for or against us in a court case. But if we were to summarize the stuff then it would be a different feeling for the acceptance of the minutes. And if someone wants the detail, they can go to the actual recording to get the true
Okay, but-
transcription, as opposed to what our minutes may or may not include.
Right.
Okay,
I think-
but I was reading through the open meeting law guide, which
Yeah?
Judith Whiteside even sent to us.
Yep.
In view of what we had happened to us several years
Yep.
ago. And yes, there's a summary of the discussion of each subject, but I think that's what we do. We do not transcribe. She doesn't go, Denise Schultz said this.
But it
or-
does.
No,
But
it
it does.
doesn't.
She
Not-
goes into way too
she-
much detail.
I don't think she does. I think that she does a beautiful job with it. I think it's perfect the way she's doing it. She does not put word for word, which is what a transcript is.
Right,
And
it's
also
not a
to note
transcript.
that the video of our meetings is not a legal document. So you can't substitute, and it came through in our court cases, you can't substitute the video for our minutes.
That is true.
Correct.
But if
So our
someone's-
minutes have to be detailed enough that if anybody reads them, they know exactly what happened.
And to me, a happen is a discussion and a vote. But-
So I had conversations with the town council about the formation of our minutes and conversation with the person who does our minutes. So the advice from town council was to not look at how other boards are doing their minutes and that we should remain the way that we are doing our minutes. He said the way that our minutes are being produced is appropriate.
All right, then I guess that
But-
ends the discussion.
With that being said, the person who produces our minutes is going to try to go into less detail where it seems inappropriate. So our minutes will be a little bit shorter, but hopefully still contain the same amount of detail, but
Okay.
not be as long.
Then,
So-
then that solves, that answers that. So there's no vote on it because we're just going to continue as we are and hopefully cut it down from 10 pages to 8
Right, and
pages.
just to note that if the other boards are not doing what we're doing,
We don't care.
we don't care, but the selectmen issued a statement to us telling us what needed to be done, and if they're not following it,
I was going to
then,
say, their minutes don't begin to.
correct, then
come
they're
to
not
that.
following their own rules.
We have, I
And we-
mean, we just did the ethics and the open space, or the open meeting laws, and they do go over minutes, and it is to be a summary. It
Right.
is not supposed to be,
Nobody's saying
a
a transcript, but we need a definitely description in full summary. It doesn't have to be like Carol said this or Sandy said this. It
Well,
has
a
to
lot of
say,
times that's
This
what
is what
it
the
is.
discussion is. Right.
I mean, she goes into who said what,
She
in
does to an
order,
extent, she does, but
and
not,
that's a bit much.
she does do a summary of exactly what is discussed and what the resolve was
It just,
or solution
we'll
was.
just ask her to try to streamline it if at all possible. There's some discussions that do not have to be in the minutes since they have not, they don't pertain to a decision.
Right, it doesn't have to have the person's name
Well,
as
they
to who
do.
said it.
Nope, this what the minutes all say, Mr.
That's
Flaherty.
what I'm saying, it doesn't have to say who said it, but it has to state what was discussed.
So
So
I
it
would-
doesn't have to say that Mr. Flaherty said this, 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 and this. It has to say that this, and this was discussed.
'Cause
I
if
would agree, and what I would also say is the person who does our minutes currently has been doing them for a long time and for a lot of other towns. So, me and Rich are comfortable with the way that her minutes are produced
we can-
currently.
Do we have enough funds? Are there enough funds for her to continue to do the minutes in the length that she does them?
I have never had a discussion about a lack of funds or if we had to ask her to do less than what she's doing.
All right.
I will also say that there are some of our court cases where the applicant will request or, go through our hearings and have a professional transcription done to present to the court for, the litigation
From our video,
from the video.
yes.
So, I think that is a court transcriber who then, would take the video and put it into a word-for-word transcription, which would then be supplied to the judge. So if it did get to the point where someone felt like the actual transcription of the meeting was pertinent to what they were trying to convey, that's the ability of actually getting a transcription of the hearings from YouTube. You would hire a stenographer, but
We wouldn't.
we
could, depends on
we
where we are.
could if we felt that the transcription of the
okay.
meeting
All right.
was in such benefit to help us with the court case.
Okay, all right.
But like I said, with my conversation with Rich, he said the minutes that we are producing are adequate to
Okay.
the objectives of the commission.
Is there anything else? Did I miss anything?
I have 2 things of new business.
Okay.
Has the commission had notification in the past about when pesticides are being used on solar projects? So these are usually, there's usually some type of maintenance plan for these solar fields that involves some type of pesticide.
I've
to
only
be
been
used.
here since 2009, and I've never seen one.
Okay, so it's possible that maybe Dave was getting notifications. It's possible he didn't. What I would suggest is moving forward that we request a notification every time they want to do an
A
application.
full maintenance plan and notification when they're about to apply it for anything that we approve going forward.
Yeah, and maybe some of the historical ones too, because I did have an applicant of one of the solar fields in town reach out to me about notification for pesticides. So I will relay to him that we would like notification. So we could either go per application, which may happen 1 or 2 times in a year, or we could go ask for a year notification saying we will be applying 2 applications this year. Maybe March and October or something.
Or we put it in their standard order of conditions just for them as it comes up,
Moving forward, we should.
moving forward, yes.
Yep.
But it would be nice if we heard about the ones that have already been approved.
Yes.
Of course, it's really Makepeace and nobody else.
And I'll relay that to the applicant that reached out to me, that we would like
Okay,
a
it would be-
notification.
Yes.
And then the final thing I want to talk about is the bluffs and onset.
You get a chance to look at all the destruction been done?
I did. And we've had some concerns from residents on what happened there, both why it happened and what the appropriate cleanup of the bluffs would be, moving forward. So the way that I saw it was it appeared that, a good amount of trees, I would say, more than a dozen, maybe closer to 2 dozen.
2 or 3 different events.
It appears that they were, cut with the intention of, removal, but they never got to that process. They cut them halfway enough for them to fell and then stopped.
They left it, some of them left them on top of the bluffs, some of them left them on the bluffs, so you can't see them till you stand on top of the bluffs, leaving the town to do all the cleanup. So they cut it on a weekend or a night.
It was done late at night. I have friends that live right in the area, and they, in their home full-time, never heard trees being removed because they would have reported it.
So I've heard a few contradictions saying that some of them were cut by the town DPW and that some of them were cut illegally in the middle of the night.
No way.
So they were not done by the DPW.
I have no knowledge. Every time we've had a
Okay.
walkthrough on the bluffs with Mr. Menard, it was very clear as to what could be cleared. Most of it
Okay.
was evasives down by stairways, preventing people, or trimming a tree to prevent people from going up and down the stairs, but I have never
Okay.
seen anything or any acknowledgement. Dead trees were approved to be removed,
Okay.
but I have never seen maintenance do anything on the bluff that hadn't already been approved by Dave and myself.
Okay.
And right after
Well,
this
that's good to
happened, I
hear.
mean, the state was involved investigating it. They were in onset,
Okay.
going, looking for videos, going door to door. And
I
it
would think
wasn't
that
just,
affects,
huh?
I think that, doesn't that affect the hill and what goes
Yes,
on?
it
Yes.
does, the erosion of
So
the
how do
hill.
we get
So,
restoration?
actually, I'd like to bring that up, and, my concern is that the removal of those trees did affect the bluff, it's, so, and my concern is that allowing the slash to remain is gonna prevent other woody shrubs from growing in.
I had asked maintenance to maintain the trees, let them fall, let people see them, then they got complaints and cleaned it up. I wanted it to stay on the bluffs. I wanted to be seen from the road,
Okay,
but they got complaints from residents to clean it up, and they did. But next time this happens, we're probably should make some type of formal acknowledgement that, no, the damage remains where it lays because it does serve a purpose.
Can we find a way to get funding to have not really young saplings, but substantial
Type of
trees
restoration.
replanted on that bluff because it's compromised?
Well,
The root systems are going to rot and die in the ground,
yes,
and that's going to compromise that bluff, and it's going to take one storm, and
Yep.
half of Onset Boulevard's going to
So-
fall into the ocean.
all those trees that were removed so you could see the view from the particular benches that are there, the benches will eventually fall down, and you cleared the trees so you could get a better view from the bench. You cleared the trees so you can get a better view from your house on a hotel street or ave or something like that. There's no question you can see where the trees were cut. Turn around and look where the view has been added. We can't, until we find out who's done it, I don't know what to do. If it happens again, document it and say, let them lie where they are. Do not clean them up. I don't care if it's an eyesore. I want people to know someone did something wrong.
right. And I can look into some type of, maybe there is fundings or grants out there to get the
I mean,
bluff replanted.
That was something I was seriously thinking about today, is that how much the root
Restoration.
system holds the bank
Yep,
together.
100%, I agree with that.
And we've seen, I mean, my sister lives on the ocean in Florida. Her dunes have been washed away, and their entire deck for their community center has been pulled away 4 times in the last 5 years,
We're very
because
fortunate.
they've lost the dune grass.
Is there any type of signage that we need to post out there?
We need to do something.
There has to be
Well,
something.
it seems like this was never an issue until someone took it into their own hands to remove the trees.
Right.
It doesn't
Yes.
seem like this was a bunch of residents going out every weekend and
And cutting
chipping
down a
away
tree.
at it. It seems like it was an isolated incident where someone wanted to, gain a view or whatever it may
Fairly
be.
new resident in the town reached out saying, can we get rid of the invasives and stuff like that? So we had a meeting, about 6 to 7 people that walked the bluffs, that talked about where to remove the invasives, especially down by the bridge
Okay,
to Point Independence, to clear the invasives around, and trees around the walkway so they get to and from. So there had been a citizens group very concerned about the issue of invasives and view and things like that. But since then, 2 or 3 times, somebody has come down and cut substantial trees.
so I guess,
But doesn't leaving the trees there hinder regrowth of something?
see, that's where I guess that's where my conversation comes up tonight, is would we grant the DPW the ability to remove the slash that's there, to give the ability to, something native to have the chance to root in there and stabilize the
But
bluff?
they have removed everything that was fallen or not.
I don't think so, no.
So
No, they have
did-
not.
They did acknowledge that I asked them not to.
They,
Because
yes.
to me, there was more damage to be done by moving over the bank and pulling the things up unless there's a plan to do them.
So I guess my recommendation would be, because I feel that the slash that is left there is gonna inhibit the growth of something that would root and potentially
That's the
stabilize.
section by Hotel Street?
I would say it's mainly around that staircase.
Yes.
Yes.
So I guess
It's further down.
with the permission of the commission, if I could work with the DPW to remove the slash that's there, that might be a good place to start to allow natural vegetation to come in.
Okay.
Now, what you're referring to as slash, is that large sections of trees
It would
are
be
still laying on that bank?
it would be the sections of the trees that are no longer viable. My recommendation to the DPW would be to leave the stumps, because although
Yeah,
the
I'm
trees
talking
are
about-
dead, the stumps are still,
It's the trunks of the
right,
cut-off trees.
it's the trunks of the cut-off trees.
And the branch.
I mean, the possibility of a storm surge coming in, or even just big waves, and loosening those loose
We're fortunate.
things that are laying there and injuring somebody is there too.
Onset Bay does not lend itself to that type of wave action at that area. We're very fortunate.
Right.
We've had some high tides that licked at the slope, at the bottom of it, but because of its sole protection, we're not going to be open to big waves.
I don't think you would see wave action up where this
Okay.
brush is. If you see wave action where this brush is, the Onset Bay,
The pier's gone.
the pier would be completely underwater.
The pier's gone, and so's Wickett's Island.
The BBC building
underwater.
would probably have water up
Yep.
to its second floor.
And the sewer station would be underwater.
So I'm not as concerned with, high tides or wave action. I'm more concerned with the ability for any new vegetation to grow in where those trees have been felled.
And can the DPW put in some type of signage to stop it or notice that it should not be done anymore or in the future?
My gut feel, the sign would be the first thing knocked over.
So, yeah,
Find the police and ask the police to keep an eye out. I mean,
we can do that.
Oh, but how many times can the police go by there and I mean,
They never would have seen them.
No,
They're down
they-
on the far side of the bluff,
and
cutting
if you
down
don't
trees
have
in the middle of
some
the
type
night.
of signage saying you can't do this, somebody could say, well, I didn't know I couldn't do it, this kind of thing. And it actually shows that you're doing some type of violation, if there's some type of notice there. Plus, it might block some of their view.
The signs would be.
Put big, tall signs, huge signs.
So I
Don't cut trees down
I
here.
don't want to speak for Derek Menard or Derek Sullivan, but the funding for the signs would have to come from somewhere.
Well, I would think that there'd already be
And-
signs already made somewhere that says,
Well, I think it's recognized by the town that the Onset Bluff is a big tourist attraction. You don't really have anything like that anywhere that I can think of. And I'm afraid that some individuals might feel that signs would take away from that aesthetic. So
Like the trees do?
potentially getting funding for the signs may be an issue.
There, at one time, before I came back into town, that side of the bluff going toward Shell Point had been cleared. State came in and had to have it all replanted. It cost a lot of money. So that's why that section of the bluff is pretty sparse compared to the other section that's up on the higher slope going toward Point Independence is as fully grown as it was. But there has been some issue with the state coming down and requiring a replanting.
So, it is
I'd
part
define
of,
that.
Town of Wareham.
We had to pay for that.
so yeah, and it is part of my job description to look for grant funding. So if this is something the commission would like to see, potentially a grant for the replanting of the Onset Bluff, it's definitely something within my purview that I could chase down.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, I make a recommendation that we follow Josh's lead for Onset Bluff, including the possibility of filing for a grant for replanting and working with municipal maintenance to clear the debris.
But leave the stumps,
Yeah, no stump,
no stump removal.
just
Now,
the debris.
would we remove the stumps or cut them lower when we replanted?
Don't know until we get there.
We'll have to see when we get there.
I would say most of the trees were cut low enough that it probably doesn't matter.
Okay.
I would say,
Well, right now, the stumps are helpful.
I would agree with
because
that
root
100%,
systems.
yeah.
But
And
as they deteriorate, are they going to become less useful?
Yeah, but hopefully something else is starting to grow up to take
Yeah,
its
when you
place.
do a
Right.
restoration
And-
program or project, I would think that
Okay,
that would
so
be taken into.
That was
into
my
account.
recommendation.
Second.
Anybody else?
Second.
Any other comments on it?
No.
Go for it.
thank you.
Is that it?
Is that it? Anything else? Oh, someone say the magic words.
That is it, I have nothing.
I move that we adjourn the meeting
At,
at, 8:53.
second,
Second.
all in favor? Yay,
Aye.
thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, I'll
And
make
if
that.
you're going to come back
You
in
can
2
turn
weeks,
us
we're
off,
going to have
please.
carrot cake if you would like some.